Petrol prices across Nigeria, they're climbing again sharply, with pump prices, ranging between 1.3 to about 1,400 per litre, depending on, where you're buying from. The latest increase is raising concerns over inflation, transportation costs, business survival, and the wider economy. Analysts point to a mix of global crude oil volatility, foreign exchange pressure, supply concerns, and realities of a fully deregulated downstream market. Well, joining me to unpack this, we have Olatide Jeremiah, CEO, co-founder, Petroleum Price. And let's bring in Mr. Olatide Jeremiah now. He's the CEO and founder of PetroleumPrice.ng. Great to have you on the show, sir.
Be here this morning.
Fantastic. So definitely at this point, I don't feel like going to the pumps right now, even though my fuel is quite low. We keep tracking oil prices, going up, coming down. But is there a chance that oil prices is not the biggest single factor behind the latest fuel price increase?
Okay, thank you. It was shocking this morning when we got to hear about the increase of PMS from the Dangote Refinery, the major dominant in the refining landscape in Nigeria. It moved Dangote price from 1,275 to 1,350. That is a 75 naira increase. So if you juxtapose that with the oil prices, you would see a mismatch. Oil prices are declining, and the gantry price and pump price are supposed to decline in line with oil prices. But there are several factors that could warrant this increase. We all know the whole world is experiencing supply shortage of crude oil. A recent research by the NUPLC, where the local refineries got just 28.5 million barrels. So that is quite disturbing, looking at the fact that crude oil supply shortage is quite a major factor to the refining costs in Nigeria. So when you start having prices moving up, when oil prices are declining, it calls for some questioning. And for me, I understand that there is quite a whole lot of shortage of crude supply from point A to point B. But at the same time, I feel we need a whole lot of transparency in our pricing templates. Yeah, we really need to know what the refining cost a litre is. Yes, it is quite important. Just the same way we are all aware of the landing cost when it used to be, when the template used to be that we import petroleum products, more 80 to 90% when we import our petroleum products. And now when we have a major refinery determining the price of our petrol and our diesel, we really need to know what factors makes up your refining cost. Why are prices moving up from 1,275 to 1,350? Looking at the fact that prices of crude oil are beginning to decline internationally.
The oil market is now, because one statement now could drive oil prices up again. Let's track the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we know that's a major factor. If that stays blocked, we see for the latest transmission now, we see ships that were able to transit there by 11, which is better than the 2 I normally see when I'm tracking that. Vessels waiting, now we have 470 plus, 37 were added today. Tankers about 140, bulk carriers 147, then others 183. So there's still that choke there for the Strait. 67 days now, that strait has been blocked. So do you think global oil prices are now more important to Nigerians than ever before?
Yes, global oil prices has been a major factor to our local prices here. And we can all see that the movements of oil prices in the last 6 to 7 days have had direct influence on our local prices here. In the month of March, prices moved over 20 times from 1,750 to where we are. So it all shows that oil prices have a direct influence on our local prices. But by and large, what is the major point of contention here is the shortage of crude supply to our local refineries. Yes, Dangote Refinery has complained severally that local refinery is not getting enough crude, and that could be a major reason why we are seeing an upward shift from 1,275 to where we are. And as I speak with you this morning, pump prices are beginning to rise. In Lagos, we are seeing pump prices move from 1,320 to 1,400. And in Abuja, I'm very sure prices would have begun to move from 1,364 to 1,400. So it all shows that the major player, which is the Dangote Refinery, has a direct influence on our pump prices and our gas prices. So for me, outside the fact that the international crude oil prices has a direct influence on our local prices here, food shortage all over the world is also a major factor why prices might not decline. I was talking to a colleague yesterday that even if oil prices drop below $80 per barrel, I don't see fuel prices dropping in line with it because there is a vacuum when it comes to food supply all over the world.
All right, so now the focus is on oil prices driving, the price of fuel, at this point. But I remember before now, if you go back maybe 2022, before 2023, the issue was foreign currency. That was foreign exchange. The weakness of the naira. That was, the reason why we're importing petrol at higher prices. But we've had, foreign exchange that's been stable from 2025, most of 2024 into 2026. Is that not helping at all? Seeing that the currency is stable?
Yeah, for me, that is a major milestone, having a stabilized currency in the last 1 year, and that is a good one. But by and large, what makes up a refining cost is crude prices. Crude makes up between 70 to 80% of the cost of per liter of our fuel. Now that we have a major refinery in Nigeria and coupled with an arrangement of Naira for crude deal with the NNPCL, I think the currency stabilization is not a major factor. What has driven prices in the last 6 to 7 days, ever since the Strait of Hormuz has been blocked, is oil price movements, upward and downward, coupled with shortage of crude across all board. So for me, it's a good one that our naira is stable. It's a good one that we have a functional local refinery. But the shortage of crude supply to those refineries is a big problem. I think that should be tackled head on to make sure that local refineries Dangote Refinery is being able to have access to its crude. The report have it that Dangote gets between 30 to 40% of its crude from NMPCL. And if that figure is being upturned to 70%, 70% sourced from the NMPCL and 30% sourced internationally, there will be quite some stability in our prices. So for me, oil prices is a major factor. Crude oil shortage, locally and internationally, is a major factor. That is why we are seeing this movement of our local prices. And for me, I feel for the ordinary Nigerians. Nigerians are not happy. I live among them, and they are not happy with the movement of prices. We have all our figures right. We are the largest producer of oil in Africa with a 1.5 million barrels per day. We are the biggest refinery in Africa. Why are we still the number 8 country with the cheapest price of petrol in Africa? We have a country like Libya, Angola, Algeria, Egypt still selling petrol at their pump below 500 naira per litre. And those countries don't have functional refineries. Those countries don't produce as much as we produce. Why will a country like Nigeria, that has the 7th biggest refinery in the world and also produces a bit above 1.5 million barrels per day, and we are still having price shocks every now and then? So for me, a whole lot needs to be put into consideration. Price transparency at the refinery level is key, and having a dominant player is not too good for an economy like Nigeria, because 70% of Nigerians lives in added poverty. Telling them to buy 1,400 per litre at the pump is quite wicked, because I know what it takes to go to the pump and pay 1,400 per litre. So for me, I think an intervention needs to come up immediately. If you look at other countries that still sell below 500 per litre, it's simply an intervention, subsidy. I'm not saying we should bring back subsidy. I'm saying that the federal government needs a form of intervention. As I speak, it might be through a collaboration with the Dangote Refinery in terms of crude supply. But without an intervention, Nigerians would keep buying petrol at the pump at an acceptable price.
Okay, so definitely, we were calling for deregulation, for the longest time, for the oil and gas industry, subsidy removal and all of that. Do you think deregulation is working the way policymakers expected?
For me, what is deregulation? Deregulation means market forces playing a major role in prices and making sure that the market forces, basically demand and supply, determines our price. The era of subsidy is gone. Quite frankly, deregulation is good, but an economy like Nigeria needs a form of, I don't want to use the word subsidy, a form of intervention at a particular period like this. Because if you look at if you look at our minimum wage, it is quite low at 70,000 minimum wage. If you correlate it with per litre, it shows a mismatch. So the economy, the industry has been regulated, which is okay. But at the same time, I think that at a particular period of time where prices are rising on a steady, a form of intervention needs to be recalled. Yeah, not subsidy basically, but intervention needs to take place at the moment. We know that between 8 to 10 cargoes is being supplied to Dangote on a monthly basis. Those cargoes can be subsidized in a form that there will be a cap price from the refinery to its to the depot, where prices will be capped to a particular rate. And with that, there will be peace, and the price level will be steady. For having price movement every now and then, just this month alone, prices have moved on from 1.2 to 1.350. That's a 150 naira increase. So all of these movements will definitely have negative effects on the livelihood of Nigerians. So for me, I'm calling on the federal government to reconsider a viable intervention, not the intervention that will not trickle down to pump price. That intervention should have direct effect on the pump price, because there are several interventions that the federal government might adopt, and from the refinery level to the depot level, we would have a subsidized rate. But to the pump, prices might still be high. So there are modalities where from the refinery level, prices will be capped to the depot, and prices will be capped to the retailers, where the ordinary Nigerians could be able to enjoy lower prices.
What if let's imagine this scenario now? What if the federal government comes up with something where the Dangote Refinery can get oil for about $60 per barrel, way below market price right now? How would that work? What would be the cost, really, if the federal government was to take that route?
Yeah, looking at it, a $60 per barrel would drive prices below 1,000 naira, possibly 800 per litre. And if an ordinary Nigerians could get a litre of fuel for 800 naira per litre, they will be happy. So with $60 per barrel from the NNPCL to the Dangote Refinery, we should be able to have a 800 naira gantry price and a 850 pump price. I think that is quite reasonable. That form of subsidy should be carried out urgently, because that is the only way where the poor Nigeria in Adamawa, the poor Nigerians in Osun State would be able to buy a litre of fuel at 850. And if that is done, it is simple. Dangote has done in the past, where as soon as he fixes his gantry price, he comes up with his pump price and say, oh, our gantry price is 6.99 per litre, and all MRS stations should sell 7.39. That's a 40 naira difference. So if that is done, Dangote will come up with his total price to Nigerians. And with that, I think we'll have basically.
All right, I guess we should have some advantage, since we, pull out so much oil from the ground, even though we're not meeting quotas or reaching the targets we want to get out of the ground. But thank you so much. We're definitely hoping for the best. Olatide Jeremiah, CEO and the founder of petroleumprice.ng. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.